Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the OTOT podcast. Today we are talking about electric cars, and I'm Alex.
I'm Ollie, and I hate electric cars.
And I'm Jaysen, and I'm indifferent to them.
And I love electric cars. So that's kind of the reason why we're having this conversation today. Tricari is not joining us because he doesn't know pretty much anything about electric cars. So this episode will be just as informative to him as it will be to hopefully you guys watching. So, Jaysen, I want to start with you. How much do you know about electric cars for you to say that you are indifferent?
I would say I know a little bit more than the average person. I'm not like super. I don't know. I don't keep up with the day-to-day, news cycle about electric cars. But my mother is heavily invested into electric cars. She really likes one and is planning on getting one. And I've always just kind of been like, they're whatever to me. It's just I don't like the way they look. A lot of them. I blame Tesla with the egg shape. So that kind of just has been a turn off for me.
Okay. And Ali, how much do you know about electric cars to say that you hate them?
Uh, I know. I think I'm like in the same boat as Jason. I know like a little bit above the average person, but yeah. Some reasons why I don't like electric cars. One, the look. I hate that like companies think of futuristic and they think of that like super
The egg
curvy
shape.
line.
Yeah, the egg shape.
Like it's horrible to me. Um, Also, like some of the reasons why like everyone's pushing for electric cars, like that's more fuel efficient or what am I trying to say? Environmentally friendly, but really it's not, and we can get into that later.
I do want to get into that because it is, but that's okay. um, and so, with that being said, um, I guess the first thing that you guys bring up is the look. And so you said that the look of electric cars is what's holding you guys back most importantly?
Yeah, so I, as somebody who likes cars, I think the aesthetic of the vehicle is one of the most important things. And like I like sharp lines in cars. I like hard angles, pause. Um, like like the way BMW's cars look. Audi is really good at it, and modern Hyundai has been really good at it. But when I compare that to something like the Mustang Mach E, which is very bulbous, it kind of gives off like, oh, this is prey. This is this is something that's slow, giant, bulbous compared to like what's an electric car I'm thinking of right now, like the Polestar, which is a little bit more aggressive looking. And I'll drop a picture in here
I don't
for
think
people
I
to see.
understand what you're saying. Um, you're saying that electric cars just have more lines than
It's not necessarily more lines. It's like a design aesthetic. So think of the Tesla Model 3, right?
uh-huh.
And how it's this, it's a crossover. I'm pretty sure the 3 is the one no, that's the sedan one, right? It's
Yes.
it's very, I don't know how to describe it. It looks big. It looks unnecessary. It looks just boring. The best way to describe it is they look boring. And then you compare that to something like
But you said
uh, uh
Hyundai.
yeah, Hyundai. So if you look at the Hyundai electric cars, I don't think the Hyundai electric cars like the Ionics. I think the Ionics are very cool looking. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. I'm just gonna find
Yeah,
a
I
picture.
have.
Ionic
I've
6
seen
is
them.
the one
Yeah.
I'm thinking of,
I mean,
or Ionic 5.
I don't understand. I see. The thing to me is that I don't think that the design aesthetic for electric cars themselves has changed. I feel like the aesthetic for cars in general have changed to being more streamlined. It's just that electric cars don't have the front radiator because there's no need to bring in that much air to cool what's not there. The engine's not there anymore. And so they don't have that radiator. And so they can kind of point the nose a little bit more, make it a little bit more aerodynamic. And I think that's the biggest difference between electric cars and more modern gasoline powered cars. But I think that the rest of the body pretty much takes the same like aesthetic choices towards shape.
It, I
Say,
don't know.
yeah, I mean, it kind of, but like me personally, aesthetically, it's not pleasing. And I guess it varies depending on which brand you're going for. But for the most part, it's like these electric cars are like designed with this futuristic model and like with like the narrow faces and they're like super curvy, like way too curvy for my liking. Um, and it's just a little off-putting. I think I guess me personally, I'm just not ready for it. But if that's the way that like everything's going, then like I guess that's how it is, you
Right.
know.
And everything that you've described so far is in relation to pretty much the hood of the car, right? The front face and the hood of the car. Is that what you're saying in terms of being too curvy, quote unquote, or too futuristic in the sense of it being more aerodynamic?
Yeah, yeah.
I think for me personally, I put down pictures too, so hopefully you guys can visualize with me. And this is the same company, and the same badge of a car. So I put in and maybe I don't know if Alex can put this in the video. Two Mustangs.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Mustang Mach-E versus the 2024 Mustang Dark Horse. They're both Mustangs,
Well,
but one of them,
that's an unfair comparison because the Mach-E is an SUV where the Mustang is still a sports car.
but that's exactly my point. I would have no issue if they made a Mustang that looks just like the Dark Horse and it was electric, kind of like with the electric Dodge
Right, but to say
Challenger
that
coming
the
out next
aesthetics
year.
are different, of course they're going to be different. They're a different class of vehicle.
I I understand, but
You could
why make it a
you could
Mustang if it doesn't look like a Mustang? Is what I'm getting at. Why
Right, but that has
call it a
nothing
Mustang
to
if it's not
okay,
a
that has
Mustang?
nothing to do with the fact that it is electric, right? That's a
I
Ford
mean
marketing perspective that doesn't make sense to anybody, but
we can compare it to the Explorer since those are both SUVs. I think the Explorer looks way better than the Mach-E.
Hmm. Okay, or even to keep Ford going, what I really like that Ford did with their electric truck, the F-150 Lightning just looks like a normal F-150, except like we were talking about earlier, it doesn't have the same radiator design in the front, just because it doesn't need to allow the same amount of airflow. So it looks a little bit different in the front, but these are two. That's an amazing looking truck, the F-150 Lightning. Even though I don't like Fords all that much, I do think that's a great looking truck. Even when you just compare it to the same, to another just normal F-150 Platinum, which I'm gonna drop some these images in.
right. Okay. So I guess my question to both of you then is speaking about the Ford Explorer is extremely boxy. It has a very flat hood, right? Um, which is inherently less aerodynamic, right? Comparing that to the Mach E, which is the comparison that Ali wanted to bring up, where the Mach-E does slope its nose downwards. Having that aerodynamic shape towards the Mach-E is what allows it to have greater gas mileage because you're not driving essentially a wall against the wind, right? And so, to this is my question to Ali: are you saying that just for you specifically, your aesthetic choice is for less aerodynamic vehicles, less performance, and that type of stuff?
I mean, is that are those two body shapes even is it even saving that much gas really? Like if you just put an engine in the Mach-E body, like would that save that much energy, that much gas just based on aerodynamics?
That's a tougher
I mean,
comparison
it
because you'd have to put a smaller engine in the Mach-E because the hood slopes down. You don't have that amount of room under the hood to put the engine.
let's
But
put it
I
in the
understand
back
what you're
then.
saying.
Yeah. Like it I don't think it like makes it would make that much of a difference if like aerodynamics. I feel like that matters more like when you're going like if you're going to the track and like you were racing these cars, I think it would matter a little more then because like over there seconds make the difference. Um, but long term, I don't think it saves you that many miles per gallon.
This is, I'm looking at something which was a study by General Motors, which says reducing the drag coefficient by zero point zero 0.01 changes the fuel economy of a car by zero point 0.1 miles per gallon.
So was it? That's like a zero point 0.1 miles per gallon is what, 10%?
Yeah.
So I know we were talking about the Ford Explorer versus the Mach-E, but I do think a better comparison would be the Lightning, the Ford F-150 Lightning versus the standard one, just because they are the same exact vehicle, just one is electric and one is gas.
Right.
And I was looking at the gas mileage of the Ford F-150. This is the 2023 model. It says it gets up to 23 combined highway. Or, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, 23 in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So 23, and then it has on the lowest end a 23-gallon tank. So that's
Okay.
about 529 miles. It's Alex, you're better at math than me. Is that math correct? I think that math is sound. So you're getting about 525 miles of
Okay.
range in any direction. You compare that to the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is 320 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I my my biggest thing about when me and my mom discuss electric cars is just range anxiety, right? Like
Right.
I
And I
know
think that,
that. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I do believe that range is an interesting topic to bring up because you're looking at a car that is not designed really for range. You're looking at a hauling truck, not a not like a sedan or something like that. If let's look at the average gas powered car in the United States has a range of about 482 kilometers, and we're looking at cars such as the Hyundai Kona, the Chevrolet Bolt, and the Kia e-Nitro all match that in range.
All right. So that's interesting. So let's let's run this all the way back to aesthetics, which is what we were talking about
Okay.
originally. Just because I want to break this down in my head a little bit, and somebody can explain to me if I'm wrong or something, or not even range anxiety. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. I want to talk about range anxiety. So You're saying that on average, electric cars are meeting
On average,
gas-powered
electric cars are
vehicles.
meeting the average gas-powered vehicle's range. Yes.
All right, so they're meeting the my my issue with that, or not even it's not really that issue. My question to that is, but the main difference is we have an infrastructure that's built around gas-powered vehicles.
Right, right. And I was
I
saying
know
if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, then I would agree. But I mean, the Tesla charger infrastructure is incredible. It's to the point where I believe in the entirety of the US, you should be able to get from one station to the other, like within a certain percentage of the average Tesla's range, which I think it's like 80% of the range or something, which is insane.
yeah, and that's very good, but that's Tesla. Like I think I'm pretty sure Ford is using the same type of chargers as Tesla. I think that was something I saw in the news, right? That they're
Most companies
that's
are, and if not, they
switching.
will sell adapters.
Okay, so they will sell adapters because I know the big thing. My mom loves Volvos. She's really interested in getting the Polestar, but she's switching. She really wanted the Volvo electric vehicle. The big thing about the Volvo electric vehicle is that it's proprietary, as I understand it. So you
Mhm.
can't just use a Tesla charger. You
Right.
couldn't charge it at home. My mom drives long distances too, back and forth from work. So yeah, I mean, even if she would be fine if she charged it every night, I know my mom she wouldn't charge it every night. So why like the issues of range continue to come up in my head because I know in my vehicle I get 280 miles, and I know that I'm no more than 2 minutes away from a gas station.
Right. Right.
Anyway,
Wait, Jason, you get 280 miles for that Civic?
bro, you see how I drive, so
Okay,
um,
here's another statistic I want to
my
bring up.
gas mileage is crazy.
The average daily mileage in the United States is 30 miles. That's it. On average,
Yeah.
every person is driving 30 miles a day. That is well within any range, essentially. You could bike that.
Yeah. All right. Good. So I mean,
It really does. The infrastructure question does come down to people who have longer commutes or who plan to
people who
travel a
live in,
lot.
or even people who just live in rural areas, right?
I mean, yes, to the sense of like going longer than 30 miles, but I don't think they're going to reach the range of their vehicle.
Well, I'm just in my and I mean, Ollie can speak to this too. We at our old job that we had together. Sometimes the closest gas station, was 40, 50 minutes away. And these people were farmers, so they're the type of people, they need as much. They're the type of people who stock up on gas. They go to the
Right.
gas station and they'll fill up 3 or 4 jerry cans, go back to their house, and that'll be all the gas they need for a week. And I'm thinking like, will electric cars what would be the equivalent to that in the electric vehicle market? Like
To
what? Like
what?
I don't
so?
know,
Like
like
Instead
what?
of instead
battery.
of st- well, instead of having to stockpile gas as you're saying, they would have a charger at their home.
Maybe I didn't explain that.
Like, how much?
Oh, you're going to say something?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like that affordable for a lot of people
Can I bring up
to like
another statistic?
install chargers
Yeah.
in their home.
Oh, to own the charger for
You're gonna
sure.
prove me wrong? Yeah, to like
Well,
install
we
it.
can talk about charger costs in a little bit, but a study by the Idaho National Laboratory determined that the distance traveled on $1 for an electric vehicle doubled as compared to a gasoline vehicle. The electric vehicle averages about 43 miles per dollar, and the gasoline vehicle is about 18. So to say that it's cost effective, say it's less cost effective to go on electricity or to say it's more cost effective to go on electricity is wrong.
All right. Well, then I
I'm just
agree with
saying the
that.
overall cost in insurance of the vehicle. A lot of people can't afford that right now. Um, just like the price of everything is going up, and it's like harder to pay for like the basic stuff. And I feel like an electric car at this point in time is a luxury. Yeah, there's some companies who are making electric cars that are more affordable, or you can buy like used models. But for the most part, I don't think it's that affordable for most Americans.
Right.
And
I
not
do
not
see what
just
you're
that,
saying.
and not just that. You can't maintain the vehicle yourself, right? Like you
Um,
have to be.
that
But
is
you can do the basic maintenance, the most basic stuff like changing your brakes and stuff. I assume,
right.
unless they're different.
And a study by Car and Driver over a period of 5 years determined that the maintenance cost of an electric vehicle was 1/3 of the cost of a gasoline powered vehicle.
It's 1/3 the cost, but if you live in a rural area, if I could say that correctly, if you live in a rural area, how much access do you have to that? Because I think for people who live in cities, I don't think electric cars are an issue at all. For most people who live in the city, like we discussed earlier, most people make the 30, well, the average drive is like 30 miles over the course of a day. I think people like me and you are going to be completely fine. I'm thinking about people who live in like the places I've driven through in Kentucky where, you're an hour away from your local Walmart when you need to go get groceries. Stuff like that where people are not close to major, or even not even major cities, but smaller cities where there might be people who can maintain the vehicle. Like if you live in Kentucky in the middle of nowhere and you got to drive 2 hours anytime your truck needs to be serviced, that's intense.
Right. Yes, I agree. Um, I'm not sure the statistics on rural areas, but I do know that Tesla's maintenance, you can bring it into the shop if you do have like extensive maintenance for like accidents and stuff like that. But for regular maintenance, they will send someone out to you to service the car.
I did not know that. See, now that's interesting because that helps people living in rural areas. Because I think it's what is the year that they're saying everybody has to go electric in America? Wasn't it 2030 or did they change it again?
I am not certain on that. I know a lot of companies have pledged by 2030 they'll be carbon neutral, and so they'll be all electric for their fleets. But I don't know when the law will be for average American citizens.
Let me just double check that. The-
Wait, I have not heard about that. So like pretty much everybody would have to like have or own a electric car. And like if you
Yeah.
live in the city at least.
What I'm reading from, this is direct from whitehouse.gov. President Biden has united auto workers and automakers to drive America's leadership of clean cars. He set an ambitious target of 50% of electric vehicle sales share in the U.S. by 2030. So, as I understand, they want 50% of all vehicles sold by 2030 to be electric. Um, and then accelerate adoption of electric vehicles for all private consumers and commercial fleets, including those who cannot reliably charge at their home. That can improve our air quality, reduce emissions, put our path to a net zero emissions by no later than 2050. So I think the whole goal is that all these industries will have to be net zero emissions by the
Right,
year
but I don't think
2050.
there's any law saying that the average American will
Yeah,
have to have an
it's
electric.
yeah. As the way
Okay.
it's writing, it's new vehicles sold. They want 50% of them to be electric. There is no, you're not forced into it.
Okay.
Okay, interesting. I do want to bring up another point by a study conducted by the U.S. Department of Energy, which says that when comparing electric vehicle versus gas car cost, the cumulative cost of ownership, which is including the price of buying it and maintaining it and fueling it, at around 4.5 years of owning the car is when the electric becomes cheaper than the gas-powered vehicle. So as
You
long as
said
you
four
plan
and a
on
half years.
so as long as you plan on having your car for longer than 4.5 years, you will be spending less to own and maintain the electric car than the gas-powered vehicle.
All right. So I do have a question because I know Alex is more in the engineering side.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that we currently have the infrastructure to allow for a major switch to electric vehicles? And
No,
by the
no,
infrastructure,
not
I
yet.
mean like, mm, when do you think that will be a possibility?
Um,
Because that's also a big issue for me is that I just know for a fact we don't have the infrastructure to support it.
that is a great question. It is surprisingly growing at a rate that I was not
I think
expecting. Sorry, go ahead.
I think uh, I think we will have the infrastructure relatively soon, just because there is a big push to go like all electric and fuel efficient. Um, so I'm guessing it's going to be uh, I'm going to say 2027, 2028
I
will
would
be
say
around there.
2030. I think that 2030 is probably what the government is calculating, which is why their standards are to push companies towards carbon neutrality by 2030, because they wouldn't enact those laws if they didn't think that the infrastructure would be there for them to still survive at that point. And so
Yeah.
it could be earlier for people, especially in very urban areas, like Ali was saying, 2027, 2026, maybe not, who knows. But I think across the US, 2030 is probably the better date. And I do want to make
Mm.
that point that while I say I love electric cars, I understand that it is not the right idea for most people right now. I think that by 2030, it would be the better idea for everybody to have an electric car. But as of right now, there are certainly reasons why people should not be getting electric cars just because of that infrastructure problem and the general cost of cars for electric vehicles being significantly higher than gas powered vehicles, especially on secondhand markets.
Yeah. What so after you get outside of all the arguments about affordability and cost, I do think that a lot of what I see just on the internet is still going back to our first conversation about aesthetic is the main thing that people just can't get behind these electric vehicles. I don't know particularly. I know personally for me why that is. And I know, excuse me. I know personally for me why that is, but I've always kind of like Alex. If you were given the choice today, would you get an electric vehicle?
If given the choice today, I would.
Mm.
But it's because I don't
And
drive very much. For me, given the choice today, I would prefer a hybrid vehicle just for the option to drive longer distances. However, I think by the time that it does come for me to need to get a car, I'll be pushed more towards getting something at least partially electric.
partial electric. Okay. And then my next question for you is, as if you were to buy an electric vehicle, which aesthetic do you prefer? I know you're talking about like I call it the egg shape. They
Mm-hmm.
all kind of like these half eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Is aesthetics important to you in your purchasing decision, or
I would
or does that
say
just something that doesn't matter
yes,
to you?
they are important, but I don't think they're extremely important. I mean, going off of like pure electric vehicles right now, I would prefer an SUV. And so looking at something like the Mustang Mach E, which is probably a little bit smaller of an SUV than I would like. It's a little bit more compact. Um, but I mean, look at something like a Rivian, right? I think I don't know what the Rivian,
All
I do
uh,
like the R1Ts.
it's
yes,
Those
the
are
R1,
boring.
the
I hate the
R1S,
look.
the Rivian R1S, I think is a very beautiful looking car,
you
which
don't like the way the
goes against
Rivians
my
look
entire
on?
point of talking about having a flat front, but it does have an angled nose.
Yeah. So Ollie, you don't like the Rivians at all?
No. That's another thing, like the headlights and light bars, like the light bar on the what is it, the Ford Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't like it. And the Rivian with like those circle headlights, I really don't like circle headlights. I don't know. I don't know why. It's just me personally. Um,
What I'm getting from Ali is that he's very traditionalist and
and
aesthetic.
yeah,
You like seeing
I
that,
am. I do like
you
that.
like
Like,
the seeing bulbs versus LEDs and seeing more boxy or flat faced designs versus streamlined or curved.
I mean, I like it's it's a different kind of streamlining that I think that I'm just not with. Um, I'm gonna try to find some picture examples and send it so we can look at that. But
Yeah, I do
yeah.
think it just comes down to an aesthetic thing for most people. Because I'm
And
looking at
oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish what you're gonna say.
yeah, I'm looking at the 2024 list of electric vehicles coming out, and we're looking at something like the Buick Electra, the Fiat 500e, which just looks the same. The Honda Prologue, the Jeep Wagoneer S, and my genuine question is, why do they all have to be crossover SUVs? That's what gets me, is they're all crossover
That's
or
the most
SUVs.
popular selling car class in America.
I think that's another problem I have with it, because a crossover just has such a specific look to it that I think personally is ugly. Like, if we're getting electric hatchbacks and electric coupes and we are getting electric trucks and electric bigger SUVs, which we only get some of. I don't think I would have a much. I think each of those have such a specific design language where it wouldn't matter. But I think these electric cars have fallen into the Tesla kind of looking design language, and but they all kind of base their cars off of that. I think Volvo is one of the few who don't. Volvo has a very specific brand language that they follow. That even in their electric vehicles, you could tell easily that they're Volvos. But I'm looking at something like the Volkswagen ID.7 and the Porsche Macan EV and the Jeep Wagoneer. I bet you if you took all the badging out for that, people would not be able to tell the difference. And I think that is also like an aesthetic problem. Honda Prologue is the same. Like, these are aesthetic problems that I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be negative things for the market, because I also think the electric car market is becoming oversaturated as well.
Right. Yeah.
I think a lot of these. I I love innovation, right? But a lot of these startup companies that exist and never get a product off the ground, they bring all electric cars down, because it's like, not all people like to say all publicity is good publicity. Well, if you're looking at the news, if you're the average American, you're looking at the news and it's like, oh, this electric car company failed. This electric car company never delivered their products. Tesla announced the Cybertruck like 4 years ago. Where is it at? I look at that and I'm like, why would I buy an electric vehicle? I know that GMC is going to come up with a new truck every year on the dot, and it's going to be available for me the minute I walk in the dealership.
Right. And the question is how much innovation is going to go into that truck if they have to put it out every year for I like to equate it to the iPhone, right? looking at the iPhone 15 versus the 14, I mean, software wise, yes, it is significantly better. There's higher processors in there. But if you look at the design of the iPhone, when was the last time the iPhone design changed? About 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like the 11, the 10 or the 11 was like the last
Yeah,
change, right?
they went from rounded curves to back to the which is even a change. They just went back to the iPhone 5, right? They just went back to
Right.
the
And
box
so
corners.
what I'm saying is if you look at cars like their phones and cars that come out every year with a new model, they're taking baby steps forward. They are taking steps forward, but they're not taking these big leaps that these concept cars are making, right?
But they also sell the most, right?
That's true.
Yeah, like I have an iPhone, and I completely agree with you. Apple hasn't innovated in a long time and stuff I like, but I still go out there and buy that phone every
Right.
2 years. People go out and buy those GMCs every couple of years, and like people go and buy Call of Duty every year, right?
Right. But by your own
2K,
account, you like innovation. That is what you said.
yeah. I can say in this moment I'm being a hypocrite. I like innovation, but I buy the same products over and over again.
Okay. All right.
I think the average person is a hypocrite more than they like to admit.
Okay. Okay. I do want to bring up an interesting little question for you guys. Or I guess it's not a question, just more like a thought experiment for you. Um, we're talking about how electric cars aesthetically is the biggest turnoff for Jaysen and Ali. And my question is, how long do you think it'll take for it to continue to look like this before you guys will accept it, right? And I want to equate it to cars from the 1900s to like the 1940s and the 50s, right? The Model T came out in 1908, and that general design remained the only design for cars' body shape until 1930. It took 20 years for cars to come up with a new body shape. Do you think it's just you guys having your own biases and fear of change, which is what's preventing you from understanding and accepting the aesthetic of cars now?
I'll go first.
How long it would take for me to accept that? Hmm, I feel like I'll accept it when there's no other option and I'm just like forced to choose it, you know? Um, but like Jason was saying with Volvo, I love Volvo. I love the look of the cars, and I like that they're not doing the same basic futuristic body shape that everybody else is doing. So I would go with the Volvo. Um,
Would you say that Volvo is
not
taking a
solely for
more
that reason.
traditional approach to their design?
Yeah,
Okay.
they are. It's like
Yeah,
the best of both worlds.
yeah. I think for me, I think it'll be I'll very quickly warm up to it because I am seeing like companies mix it up. Like the electric Dodge Challenger. It looks just like it has the same body lines of the Challenger, but you can also tell it's an electric vehicle, right? But the essence of a Dodge Challenger is still there. Lamborghini is coming out with an electric vehicle, and I think it said 2028 is when it'll be ready. That it looks like a Lamborghini, but it's also an electric vehicle, and it's not a sports car, hypercar. It's a supercar, I should say, but it's more like a crossover. But still, it has the same lines that define it as a Lamborghini or the Hummer EV. Looks like a Hummer. I think a lot of the issues I have personally is that when companies for bringing back Ford as an example, will say, "Hey, you really excited for an electric Mustang?" And it doesn't look anything like a Mustang, and it's like, why even call it a Mustang at that point? It can be something new. It can be something different, which is why I think a lot of electric car companies are finally, traditional car manufacturers are finally understanding. It's like we can do electric vehicles. They don't need to be. We don't need to steal names from already popular vehicles, and not pay homage to that. We can make something new.
Okay.
And also, like, we need. I do think electric cars drive innovation. I think in this conversation we have is going to be entirely different in like 2 years.
Nah, I'm sticking to my guns.
I think a lot of things. The car industry right now is going at such an advanced rate, man. I think everything's going to look different, and I think in 5 years, was it's 2023 now. By 2028, everything is going to look completely different. The way our phones look will be different. The way cars look will be different. The way most things look will be different, because I think a lot of stuff is becoming so technology focused, right? We're putting tablets in cars now. Nobody's buying tablets anymore, so guess what? We're gonna force them in your vehicle. So I think it's just the whole design of everything is gonna change.
Right. Right. And we can get into this in a little bit, but the design will change significantly when steering wheels and pedals are taken out of cars, right? It's no longer going to be about facing forward. It could be designed more as a comfortable, like, lounging area where you don't have to look forward while you're driving because the car will drive itself.
Yeah,
But,
I
oh,
think
go ahead.
society at large is just not.
Right. We'll get to that.
I
We
don't
will
think
get to
it's.
that.
Yeah,
We will get to that.
yeah,
Before we get to
yeah.
that, I want to talk to Ali one more time about the environmental impact. You said another thing that holds you from accepting electric vehicles is you said that they don't actually have a environmental impact advantage.
Small scale, personally, I think they do, or you'll feel it more. But like on a global scale, lithium batteries hurt the environment so much, and they really hurt third world countries because that's where most lithium mining is. Um, there's thousands of people who die every day in lithium mines, and they also pollute water. So that's thousands more that you're killing with pollution. I think from that perspective, that's why I'm saying it's not environmentally friendly.
Right. Okay, I do understand that. Um,
And
and
I understand
how
you could
would you
also make
say
the
that compares to the environmental impact of lithium mining versus of oil fracking?
yeah, I was just getting to that. Like
Okay.
you could say the same thing with fracking also pollutes the waters and destroys the environment. Um,
And kills people.
yeah. I think honestly, we as a society, we just need to find a better solution. I don't know what that solution is, but there's smarter people than me who are working on that. And I think we're trying to take a step in the right direction, but we need to like just take a couple more. And
So you're saying that
this,
because lithium mining is so environmentally detrimental that we should not, and in favor continue doing the equally environmentally detrimental oil fracking?
Well, maybe I.
no, yeah, Jason, you wanna?
Yeah, maybe I can explain this point. I think what he's saying is we're replacing the devil we know for the devil we don't, right? Like
Yeah.
the negative effects that coal mining and uh, diesel and carbon dioxide, all that stuff, we at least are understand the effects of that. But when you switch to something completely new, even though in the short term we understand is better, I don't know anything about the more long term research, but I understand that in the short term that there's lots of benefits, but we don't know what that can say in the long term. And especially once you understand kind of how these things are made, how it's all the other people it negatively affects, right? Like replacing coal mines for lithium mines, right? Like
Right.
I think there
And
are other
to
things we need
that,
to
I would
change
like
as
to
well.
say that I'm looking at a Climate Connections website from Yale, which says that lithium mining is about 5 times less detrimental to the environment than coal mining.
I personally I don't understand how they can say that because we don't know we're not at the economy of scale yet for it, right?
Right, but
Like
they're
we're
talking
not that
about, I believe they're comparing tons of carbon dioxide released per whatever yield.
interesting. So all right. And Rick, can you repeat that statistic again?
It said 5 times less.
5 times less. But that's at the current scale it's going at right now, correct? Or
Yes.
is that like a projected scale? All right. So if it's 5 times less, how do we compare that? Like my whole thing is once you start, if it's 5 times less, well, how will that affect it in 10 years? When I think in Europe they're forced 2035 electric vehicles only. So when all of Europe has to switch, the EU, I should say, when all of the EU has to switch to electric vehicles, well, I personally thinking, and just from what I know about statistics and math, that 5 times lead is just going to diminish more and more until it gets back to the same amount of impact. I don't know if lithium mining could ever catch up to.
Uh, in that sense, for it to have the same amount of impact, it would be at a scale of 5 times greater production than coal is or has ever been. That's what I do want to clarify that, right?
Mm, all right.
You're just saying
Uh,
that you're saying that with scale, we are going to be causing more uh
or the same amount.
we're going to be causing the same amount of carbon dioxide released or energy used or whatever it is that they're qualifying in this statistic, but that would be towards a yield of 5 times as great.
Yes. Yeah. The way you said that, I think that's what I'm saying. Kind of like how I think about like because going back to what we talked about infrastructure is in there. We have lots of places in America that still use coal power plants, or I don't think everybody has switched to nuclear and more renewable forms of energy. So there's a lots of things. I think there's lots of things that we have to hit first before we can get there. Because
Right.
we gotta
Right.
build the infrastructure first, then we can talk about this. Like we need to get that. Um, we need to get that there before we can start worrying about everything else.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Um and so I guess to Ali then, with that statistic in mind, does that change your opinion?
Uh, no. I'm I'm just I'm gonna go with Jason on this and say we're just not ready for the production it would take to get to that 50% mark that the U.S. wants, and what was it like all sales of EVs for the EU.
It's
And
2035.
yeah, I think the impact would be like too great for the environment.
Yeah, like we said earlier, people in cities
I-
will be fine. It's it's everybody. I think it's people outside of the large cities who are going to be the most negatively impacted.
And you know, there's still going to be people who are like going to stick to gasoline, uh, maybe because where they live, the infrastructure isn't the best for electric cars, and um, like they may not have any other choice but to stick with gas and diesel, and this is only going to like raise the prices of gas and diesel, so it's going to hurt them more.
Right, right. But when it comes to technology, the question is never if, but when, right? We will have that infrastructure.
Yeah, I understand that,
Yeah,
but
we will have the infrastructure, but it's what is it going to take to get there? What else are we going to have to give up, right? We're going to have to give up something. We don't know what it is yet, but there's going to be some major change because this is things like this when they happen. This is a major change, not just for people, but for industry at large too. So like, what else is going to have to change to make it sustainable? I think a lot of people they talk about and they think about, but now they don't think about the future because as cars get more and more advanced, the people like me, like I can do an oil change, but we're not gonna be able to do our own oil change. Number one, because electric cars don't have oil, but number two, it's gonna be like I am not an electrical engineer. Something messes up on my car, I'm confused. I don't want the car to catch on fire. I'm confused. Like what do I do? And you can only take it to a Tesla shop. That's like yeah, that's cool. That's fine. But what are the other negative consequences? I think is are what people are missing out on.
So you're worried about dependency?
Not just dependency, but like I know that if something happens in my car, I can go to any shop and take care of it. If something were to happen to an electric car, I'm SOL. Unless I can
Which
take
is
it back
dependency.
to yeah. Okay, I guess yeah.
Okay.
I'm dependent on the manufacturer.
Okay.
I don't like being. I'm too dependent on the manufacturer for everything. That's a personal thing for me. That I don't know if everybody prescribes to that. That is a personal thing for me. I don't like being too dependent on other people to work with my vehicle.
Okay. Okay. And so talking about depending on other people, let's talk about one of the biggest, I think, and most controversial topics in relation to electric vehicles, which is self driving, right? How do you, both of you, and we'll start with, I guess, Ali, how do you feel about self driving?
um, I think it's a good idea. I don't trust people to drive. Like, isn't driving like the one of the leading causes of death in like the world, right? I don't trust human drivers, but I don't think um, right now electric or automated driving is at the point where we can really just trust a computer, especially a computer trying to adjust for every human driver out there and the stupid mistakes that we make. Um, but I feel like as we get more and more automated cars out there, and as technology gets better, then that's definitely the way we should go.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, but right now,
You're saying right now you would not get behind the wheel of an electric self-driving vehicle.
Yeah, if it's like that, like partial self-driving where like every
I'm saying let's talk about um,
like
automation. I
fully
believe there's
fully automated.
5 levels of automation. I believe level 2 is where it's you can keep your hands off the wheel, but you have to be attentive on the road. Or no, sorry, level 2 is power steering. Sorry, level 2 is power steering. Keep your hands on the wheel, please. That's every car in America and pretty much every car in existence. Level 3 is take your hands off the wheel, keep attentive to the road, keep your feet on the pedals. Level 4, I believe, is where you can take your eyes off of the road. And then level 5 is like, level 4 is take your eyes off the road in fair conditions. And then level 5 is take your
It's
eyes
like
off the road
you can
entirely.
like turn the seat backwards and
Pretty much, yeah. So like level 4 is like
you're lounging at that
dry,
point.
sunny day, clear, high visibility. You can take your eyes off the road. And then 5 is like it's raining, it's super wet. You can still trust that the car will drive itself.
I have a I have a
No, go
question
ahead.
about
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Would y'all trust that? Is that something that y'all can trust? Personally, I can't. I would be
I
scared
mean,
to death. Like I need to be in
I
control.
Right. Right. And so I do have an
I
interesting
understand.
question for the both of you. And I want to see what you guys would say. So, like, in the hypothetical sense of you need to send your child somewhere, what would it take for you to put your kid in a self-driving car by themselves? This is, and I say your child as in someone who, like, couldn't drive the car on their own if they had to. What would that take for you?
Like a 10-year-old. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking babies. We're talking like 10, 8, not like 3 and 4. Correct?
I mean, we could talk about 3 and 4. I'm saying someone who could not drive the car if they had to on their own. What would it take for you to put them in the car themselves without you?
I think with the
I
whole road system would have to change for that. There could be no at that point there have to be all self-driving cars and the only things allowed. I don't know if I could trust putting a child in that type of scenario without me being
yeah.
there. If I was there,
For,
no issues.
for me personally, it would be like it would have to be a brand that like is like makes really safe cars first. They have to have like a really good track record um with that self-driving capability. And man, I don't know. I would have to like have been driven in that car many times using that self-driving capability to trust it. Because I know like at first, even me personally, I'm gonna like be a little shaky on it just because it's something
Yeah,
new. I don't know it yet, but in the future, I'd
yeah. Like
probably
like
like be okay with it.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Like
And
if it was
so,
my personal self-driving vehicle, yeah. I don't know if I could put them in like a Uber that was a self-driving vehicle. I don't know if I could, but my own personal self-driving vehicle, the one that I get in and I know it's mine, I would be
mhm.
way more open to that rather than
Okay.
like a public one.
So you're saying that they would have to be with somebody who could take control if something went wrong, right? It doesn't have to be you, but they would have to be with somebody who could control the car if something went wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would prefer that.
Okay. Well, this
In a
leads me to my
perfect
next
like
question. Ready? Um, how often do you take an elevator?
I always take the stairs.
Truthfully, I don't take an elevator that much, but I get the
If
point you're making.
Because
it's
in the
like
elevator, you have absolutely zero control over that elevator. If it falls, there is nothing you can do to stop it. But the data and there's so much testing, there's so much data, everything tells us that it is safe and is continuous to prove that it is safe. And yet you're saying that there is no way you would put somebody in a car, even if the data was telling you that it was safe.
I mean, we can't really compare a car and an elevator. There's
I'm
so many more
saying in the
factors that go
future,
into.
we have this data that is telling us the people have approved this car for production. They are on the road. People are doing full level 5 self-driving, right?
The safety and the regulations are all there.
That's right. You're still
Yeah.
saying that you would have to have somebody in the car that could take control.
Yes.
Yes.
Personally, yes. And I get what your point you're making about the elevator. I think the important thing about the elevator is it gives you the false sense of control, right? When I go in the elevator, I'm the one who clicks the button to make it go up. I might not do anything else, but I'm the one who touches the button. It goes to the floor I chose. I feel like if it's an electric car, and all I do is I get in and I push the button, and the pedals move by. It probably would even have pedals, but I could see. It does all that by itself. I can't even ride roller coasters, man. I like it scares me. I need that level, much level of control of whatever I'm in. I need to be able to stop it when I want to and go when I want to, turn when I need to. I don't like not being in control of whatever situation I'm in. Personally speaking, is like a crazy thing for me, which is why I can't get behind self-driving cars. Now I think that once there's the infrastructure and the regulations and the safety where I know without a shadow of the doubt that I already know that most accidents are always human error. But if we're in like a society that's it's mixed,
Well, that's
there
not
are
true
self-driving
saying that
cars.
accidents are always human error. There's a significant proportion of bicycle accidents or vehicle on bicycle accidents attributed to Tesla self-driving. I would
Well,
recommend anybody. I would recommend anybody who wants to ride a bike do not ride anywhere near a Tesla for whatever reason. In the past, this is a legitimate thing that has happened. For some reason, the algorithm that it uses to recognize people does not recognize bicycles as well as it recognizes pedestrians or cars, and there's a significant increase in bicycle accidents.
well, I was speaking more towards once we get to like what is it, level 5 self-driving. I'm talking about that few, not now, currently.
Okay.
Right? But in a world where it's like mixed, there are some self-driving cars and some human control vehicles. I don't know. My anxiety would be through the roof because I know my electric, but my self-driving vehicle. I know it's not my fault, but any crazy dude can run that red light and slam into the side of me.
Right.
But
Okay.
if it's all self-driving, then obviously there's a lot less to worry about.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And so are you saying that even if you were to have like a level 5 self-driving vehicle, you would like, even if it's a placebo, um, steering wheel and pedals?
Yeah, even just as a safety thing, like I can put it back in manual mode in case of emergency.
Oh, I was saying that in the sense of there's a steering wheel and pedals, but they would do nothing.
Oh,
No,
and
I
they would
would.
do nothing. I don't know about that. At that point, I'd rather just travel.
Okay.
Yeah. If they do nothing and they literally are just there for aesthetics, then I'd be like, well, what if there's an emergency and I'm over
Okay.
here trying to mess with the steering wheel and it does literally nothing?
Okay. I'm just trying to equate it to the stop button
Elevator.
in an elevator, right? While
Yeah.
the elevator stop button works while the elevator is functioning properly, if it's not functioning properly, that stop button does not do anything.
Yeah.
But that is the level of like perceived safety that they add into the elevator in order to give people a sense of security because they know they can stand behind their data. And
Well,
so,
crazy thing,
yeah, go ahead.
you just telling me I didn't know that the stop button really didn't do anything. So now I'm gonna be less likely to get in the
I mean, if
elevator.
you're
I'm gonna be
falling,
getting
you press
in.
it. If the elevator is falling and you press the stop button, it's not going to make it stop falling.
Yeah, but at least I feel like it does. Like that's the thing. Like I get what you're saying. If they put it in the vehicle, I my main issue with the example of the steering wheel and pedals is because somebody who doesn't know would perceive that as a safety feature. Like, oh, in the case of an emergency, I can mess with the steering wheel. But if the steering wheel doesn't do nothing, and I'm over here trying to control a spin, twisting the steering wheel, and it doesn't do anything, I feel like that's worse off. I feel like there's
Okay.
better ways to iterate that false sense of security.
Okay. I get that. Okay, and I do want to make the point that the stop button does work if the elevator is functioning properly. If for whatever reason the elevator is not falling and you want to stop it, you can press the stop button and stop it. I want to give you that sense of security, Jaysen.
Yeah, please, please. I think I'll get in the elevator and I will be stuck there for years because I'm not getting. If the place I gotta go only got an elevator, I'm about to climb those 100 stories or wherever I'm.
Okay.
It's gonna have to be done.
Okay. All right. I guess I want to share my opinion on it, which is different than yours. And as long as that data is there, I do not think we are there. I want to make that very clear. I do not think we are there. I think we are years away. But as long as we have the data and it's been proven, and we've seen trials and closed testings and showing that there is like the achievement of level 5 self-driving, I don't think I would have an issue of putting somebody who could not drive behind the car or in the car without me.
Yeah. You just have a lot more faith in the science and statistics than I
I
do.
guess I do.
Because I mean, I don't think anything is always exact.
Right.
It's there's always, what is it, like the margins of error, and some things like, oh my gosh, sorry, the margins of error when it comes to people's lives, even if it's just that 1% chance. Me personally, I wouldn't take that chance. I know that a lot of people would, and we already do in a lot of instances. But if I know, and there's just a 1% chance that something could go wrong, I don't know if I could take it.
Okay. No, I get that. All right. And with that, I think that is all that I had to talk about electric cars today. I want to revisit both of your initial statements, and I want to see what your sentiments are now that we've had this conversation. Do you still believe that do you still hate electric cars, Ali? Jaysen, are you still indifferent? What do you think?
I'll let you go
Yeah,
first.
I still don't like electric cars. I just don't think we're ready for it right now. At least as big as the government's like pushing it and like everyone's really like pushing it. I don't think we're ready for that. But I do like the idea, and I do understand like that is the future. But for me
Yeah,
personally, it's not it.
yeah. I'd say I'm still indifferent, but a lot of my issues aren't on the technology or the environmental side. A lot of it is purely aesthetic.
Okay. Okay. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say?
Um, Elon Musk sucks. Tesla suck. Everybody, go please support somebody else. Delete your Twitter account. Delete it.
Twitter doesn't exist. I'm sorry, Jaysen. It's X
Oh,
now.
sorry, my fault. Well, yeah, delete your X
Delete
account.
your X account.
And
Okay.
delete your ex's account off your phone too. She's not coming back. While you're at it.
Okay. All right. Ali, you have anything to add?
Oh, I will say one thing. A big safety thing with like the batteries getting like punctured in like car accidents and stuff, and like causing really bad fires. Um, I would say that's a big safety thing. That's what I was like trying to get at like having a really reliable and safe cars. I don't want to die in a fire. That's probably the worst way to go out.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, so I do understand that like electric cars are more sturdy, generally safer than any other car out there, but I would just like to have that like reassurance that like that battery is like safe and like puncture proof and won't catch on fire just in case uh some somebody hits me or like go off the road or something.
Right, right. And I don't know any sort of statistics about this, but um, how would you think that would compare to like gasoline fires? Because gasoline is equally as flammable, if not more flammable than lithium.
Dang, golly, he just hit
I,
you with something you ain't got. He just hit you with the fact.
um, I don't have the numbers right now,
I
but
don't either. I don't know. It could be
I
it
I think
could be the fact that
it
there's more lithium in electric cars than there is gasoline um in fuel powered cars. So that's what's the cause of
yeah,
the fires. I really don't know what it is.
and I think it's also like the type of car as well, just like the way it's made. Some cars are safer than others. I'm sticking by Volvo too. They are like the safest cars in the world. If you're gonna buy a car, buy a Volvo. Um,
Well, my mama's got him.
oh, for real?
Yeah,
See, your mom's a smart woman.
yeah. Drives
Tell
Volvos.
her I said
I,
that.
I will. I'll tell her right now. Mother!
All right. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for joining me and having this conversation, and thank you for listening. This was the OTOT podcast episode on electric cars. Join us next week where we are talking about what are we talking about next week?
That should be up. Me and Jose talking about Starfield.
Starfield. Okay.
Yeah.
How far through the game are you?
I completed it yesterday.
Okay.
I
All right.
I
Oh
have
damn.
completed the main quest, so
All right. So
Oh
we are going
yeah.
to
very
have
good.
your full experience on Starfield next week.
Yep.
And thank you guys. Remember to follow us on Instagram and X at OTOTpod and Threads at OTOTpod. We're trying to save Threads. Follow us on
Single
YouTube.
hand.
That's right. Follow us on
If you
YouTube
have any questions,
yes.
you feel free to DM us or email us at ototpod at
The
gmail.com.
email
All right.
is our thoughts on this podcast at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
If you DM my personal account, you are getting ignored. I'm sorry. It's just the way it
I think that
goes.
goes for all of us. Yes. Do not
Yeah.
DM us on our personal
I
accounts.
I will not ignore you.
Make sure to follow him on Buff Bayley. That's what he'll get back to you.
Yeah.
He'll respond to your book Billy, but not on his personal.
All right.
Go support my man. He's buff.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Love you.